Joe supports raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. This will give 40 million workers a pay raise and push the wage scale up for everyone else. Joe will also make it easier for workers to join unions, create 12 weeks of paid family leave, fund universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, and make childcare affordable for millions of families. Joe will rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and fight the threat of climate change by transitioning us to 100% clean electricity over the next 15 years. These initiatives will create millions of good-paying jobs all across our country. As you know, we are the only industrialized nation not to guarantee health care for all people. While Joe and I disagree on the best path to get universal coverage, he has a plan that will greatly expand health care and cut the cost of prescription drugs. Further, he will lower the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 down to 60. To help reform our broken criminal justice system, Joe will end private prisons and detention centers, cash bail, and the school-to-prison pipeline.
So let's talk about the substance, though. While many of the speakers at the first night of the DNC were focused on Trump is bad for a number of reasons, which I mostly agree with, but I've heard it a million times, or Joe's a good guy, which seems to be true. He has empathy and compassion and all of that, but I would like to see it attached to policy. Bernie Sanders, well, he gave a bit of that. And his mission that night was to try to get more progressives to be comfortable with the idea of supporting Joe Biden. Right. The way that he went about it, he tried to do what he always does, which is to ground it in an acknowledgement of our problems, what needs to be done to fix them, and what Joe Biden is actually supporting to potentially do that. So I want to read you just a little tiny bit. So he says, let me offer you just a few examples of how Joe will move us forward. Joe supports raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. He acknowledges that'll give 40 million workers a pay raise. He wants to make it easier for workers to join unions, create 12 weeks of paid family leave, fund universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, make childcare affordable for millions of families, rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, fight the threat of climate change by transitioning us to 100% clean electricity over the next 15 years. That will create millions of good paying jobs. He says that they disagree on the best path to universal health care coverage, but he has a plan that will greatly expand health care and cut the cost of prescription drugs, while also lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 60. And he talks about him ending cash bail, ending private prisons and detention centers, and the school to prison pipeline. That little summary I just gave there from his speech was more acknowledgement of what can actually be done to solve problems in terms of policy than I believe, and I don't think I'm being too unfair, the entire rest of the night. Yasmin, am I being fair or unfair in saying that?
I think that's fair. You know, it was funny because in your after show, Cenk asked you if you could remember anything that Klobuchar had said, and you were like, man, I don't know. And honestly, what did she say? I remember that weird joke that she made. Well, now I don't even remember the joke she made, but yeah, something, about the mail, like, you'll have to do a change of address or something like that. That's what we were getting the whole night, was a bunch of those, and then stories, personal stories, whatever, but nobody talked about policy and how, the changes that they want are actually gonna make it to the people. Bernie was the only one, and he was an hour and a half in who did that. You know what else he did that I really, really enjoyed was that he addressed his millions of people who supported him during the primaries, which to me felt a little bit like a flex on Bernie's part. Like, yeah, I got a million people, but it was also a really good reminder, I think, to the Democrats that there are millions of Americans who generally vote Democratic who supported these really, really progressive ideals, and even really, really progressive as far as the Democrats would see them, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that he keeps reminding people that, because it's true. I mean, there's so much buy-in and support for all these platforms. Medicare for all, overwhelmingly Americans support that idea. So it's not unreasonable to expect your government to deliver that for you if they can, and they can. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I would argue that sort of expectation is the whole point of having a democracy in the first place. We should be able to expect those sorts of things.
Yeah, and especially with Kasich's comment, I think it was kind of like a nice, no, we're still gonna be a little bit more progressive. We're still gonna go a little further left.
Yeah. So I think that Bernie did a good job of doing what his mission there was, which was to try to press the party on the issues he cares about while pressing his supporters to support Joe Biden, which I know Bernie's gonna get a lot of criticism for that, even from some people who supported him in the past, even though like you can't look at anything Bernie has done through the course of his career and find what he's doing right now to be inconsistent with that. He has always supported vigorous primary challenges, trying to expand the scope of the conversation politically, and then pragmatic political moves that have the best chance of delivering that outcome. In the same way that he supported Hillary Clinton in 2016, he's supporting Joe Biden this year. He would prefer it was him. I would prefer it was him. I'm sure a lot of people would, but that's not the situation we're in right now. And so he's proceeding accordingly.
You know, it kind of reminds me whenever I find people who voted for Trump back in 2016 and then they're disgruntled about everything he's done ever since then. It's like, well, what did you expect? And they're like, oh, well, I figured he would change once he got into office. I figured he would be a little less crazy once he got into office. I was like, why? I mean, he's always been that person, and this is what he's been consistent with even before he was running for president. So now I'm kind of hesitant to say that Democrats or progressives are thinking the same thing will happen with Joe Biden. But I think the big difference there, the big distinction is that Joe Biden is already further left than Donald Trump is. And Bernie's message wasn't that Joe Biden will change and be more like us. It's still that we're gonna have to work for these policies, but we just have a much better chance of pushing them through with Joe Biden there as opposed to Donald Trump. I think
exactly.
We gotta remember that.
Yeah, there's no path where the next 4 years are fun and awesome and easy. It's just not gonna happen. The question is, what do you want that fight to look like? How difficult do you want it to be? You can have it impossible, or you can have it very difficult and annoying and frustrating and depressing.
Yeah, especially when you consider just a Democratic cabinet would be amazing. Even having a full cabinet would be amazing. Just getting things done all over in different aspects of government. That's what needs to happen. That's what hasn't been happening this whole time for almost 4 years now.
But I did want to read a comment. So I got a statement from Josie Caballero. She was a candidate who was on the show several times, is now a delegate who is planning to vote for Bernie at the DNC. Josie gave us this statement saying, the convention has begun to the same empty platitudes we saw back in 2016. The DNC seems to think that pretty images and right-wing conservatives speaking for another centrist Democrat will inspire a nation to vote. Well, canned clapping and cheering will not convince anyone. And I agree. I don't know how effective it's going to be in rallying some conservatives to support him, but I think that if that is their strategy, and I wish that wasn't, I wish that they were inspiring more younger, disaffected and apathetic progressives and leftists and all of that to get involved. But if they are gonna go for those conservatives, I mean, focusing on how Trump is crazy and Joe Biden's a decent guy, that's a way to do it, I guess.
I don't think it's going to be effective either as far as converting people. I think it's only good for the people who are already going to vote for Joe Biden. And even then they're just like, yeah, this is fine. They're not particularly riled up about it, or excited to go vote. But as far as the Republicans, if they're even tuning into something like this, I mean, we've been criticizing Donald Trump for how long? Since before he was elected, and hasn't done anything. That's not the messaging that they're looking for, All they do is say, oh, Democrats, oh, progressives, and then they kind of brush it off. And even if you have all the data to back up whatever you're saying, they don't care. They don't listen to it, I think the only thing that I found that people really will vote for or against something is if it impacts their wallet, their bank account.
Yeah.
Or if they've been very, very specifically and directly affected by something, like if somebody they know died of COVID.
Yeah.
But beyond that, this isn't gonna do it.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.